Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, remember what a lead indicator is? A lead indicator is when you find out about something that may not affect things right away. So like for example, let's say that we have a refinery fire somewhere in Texas. Well, the price of gasoline may not go up right then and there. But give it a few days or a week or two or however long, but eventually that supply shortage due to the fire in a refinery in Texas is going to catch up with the price of gasoline. Well, ladies and gentlemen, firefighters brace for North Carolina fertilizer plant explosion. 6,500 people have been evacuated. Fertilizer is the key word here, ladies and gentlemen. We all know, and in case for those of you that don't know, that we've been enduring a fertilizer shortage which has caused the price of fertilizer to escalate to a point where some farmers cannot even plant their crops because they can't afford to pay for the potash or for the fertilizer that they need and pesticides that they need in order to grow enough of a yield so that they can make enough just on that crop. Now we have a plant in the United States which is probably going to be offline for a long time. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what I call a leading indicator. Why is that? Ladies and gentlemen, we've already enduring a fertilizer shortage. Now this one plant is not going to be able to contribute towards the supply of fertilizer that we ourselves need here in the United States in order to yield what we normally yield from the crops that we plant or that our farmers plant. And like I said, they were already having a tough time as it is. This is just going to exacerbate the problem, make it even worse. So why am I making this video? Because you can now take a look at what are those crops that use the most fertilizers. All right, and I'm going to go over that here with you in a minute. We're going to go over this article here in a minute, but I'm going to go over that with you. That way you can maybe stock up on some of these things that require a lot of fertilizer. Because I think that what farmers are going to end up doing in order to stay in business, in order to continue to operate their farms and not have to sell out to these large corporate farms, is they're going to have to start growing things that don't use as much fertilizer. So here it says, an uncontrolled fire burns at a North Carolina fertilizer plant early Wednesday as there is still a risk of explosion, forcing thousands of people to evacuate their homes in surrounding communities. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is no joke. Not only is this fire dangerous that's going on right now, but they're saying that an explosion could ensue. And if it's a fertilizer plant, I'm pretty sure that they've got a lot of fertilizer in there. The Winston-Salem plant caught fire Monday night and continues to burn days later. The plant produces ammonium nitrate and has more than 500 tons of potentially explosive chemicals in storage. There has been no improvement on scene. Conditions have not improved, a spokesman for the city of Winston-Salem said during a press briefing at 4:30 in the morning Eastern Time. The potential for an explosion is still there. Ladies and gentlemen, ammonium nitrate is no joke. We can pretty much consider this plant offline for the rest of the year, if not for the very near future, like the next couple of years. Because if that thing explodes, that whole plant is gone. So where are we going to get the fertilizer to make up for the delta or the difference that this plant was producing? Ladies and gentlemen, we all know what this means. The writing is on the wall. I remember telling you all that we would first see food shortages in the way of socioeconomics, meaning that people would be priced out of food. This, ladies and gentlemen, could actually cause an actual food shortage. Our soils here in the United States and probably in a lot of the world have been so depleted of nutrients that they need the fertilizer in order to be able to grow the yield that would sustain us as far as what the demand is, at least here in our country. The out-of-control fire forced firefighters to retreat and led local officials to evacuate 6,500 people who live within 1 mile of the plant. Now, this is the size of the explosion that they expect if it actually explodes, with a total of, I believe, 600 tons to include the 500 tons in-house and the 100 tons that's on rail cars. At the news briefing on Tuesday afternoon, officials said an explosion is possible within 36 hours. We are not out of the woods, they said. I've been in this business for 33 years, and when I learned how much ammonium nitrate was on site, I felt as uneasy at a fire scene as I've felt in my 33 years in this business, says the Winston-Salem Fire Chief, Mr. Mayo. And he continues to say, ladies and gentlemen, listen to this. I think we all know about this explosion that happened in Beirut, but he says ammonium nitrate is unpredictable. Besides the 500 tons on storage, there's an additional 100 tons on rail cars. For some context, it only took 2,750 tons to create the massive chemical detonation in the port of Beirut, Lebanon on August 4th, 2020. And here is a tweet saying aerial footage captured some thick smoke rising from a Weaver facility plant in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Tuesday after a fire broke out Monday evening and raised fears of an explosion. Of course, we pray for the people that are there, and hopefully there are no fatalities. But if that 500 tons plus the additional 100 tons explodes, that's going to create all sorts of problems. We can forget about the problems that it's going to create with the fertilizer shortage, but all of that stuff, all of that poison that's going to end up in the air and then end up back on the ground on top of the people, you know, it'll be terrible. So we can just keep our fingers crossed and hope that there is no explosion. And to finish it off, ladies and gentlemen, they say that fire comes as the fertilizer grade ammonium nitrate market has been tight after a tumultuous 12 months. Hurricane Ida struck the heart of the U.S. fertilizer industry in late August, and an energy crisis in Europe curbed production. Tight markets have sent fertilizer prices to record highs in late December and remain over 2008 highs. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we all know that this fertilizer crisis is not just here in the U.S. It's also happening in Europe, because of the problems they're having with making fuel. You know that fertilizer is a byproduct, or a byproduct of, I think it's natural gas, is used to make fertilizers. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comment, if it's natural gas or not. Record high fertilizer prices will prompt farmers to curb usage of the critical nutrient for plants, potentially resulting in declining crop yields and forcing some to change crops that don't need as many nutrients. One thing is sure, high fertilizer prices means food inflation will remain elevated this year. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what, food inflation will remain elevated going forth. There's no more food prices coming down. All right, I'm going to go over the two main crops that use the most fertilizer that we depend on here in the U.S. Not only in other parts of the world, but here in the U.S. we depend on these two crops the most, and they're the ones that use the most fertilizer. He finishes off by saying, as for now, firefighters in Winston-Salem are bracing for a potential explosion today, and that is just terrible. And here, ladies and gentlemen, food and crops with the most fertilizer use. In California, 4 crops are responsible for just over 50% of the average nitrogen fertilizer use. Did you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? 4 crops are responsible for 50% of their fertilizer use. When taking into account the average harvested acreage, those crops are cotton. Okay, we maybe don't need cotton. Almonds, we could probably get by without almonds. But, ladies and gentlemen, wheat and rice. Wheat and rice, ladies and gentlemen. Wheat is used in so many things that we consume. Even things that you may not think have wheat in it. It's used in it. And rice, ladies and gentlemen, is a staple for many households in the United States. I know it's a staple here in the AP household. They continue to say, worldwide, bananas by far have the highest fertilizer application rates in kilograms per hectare, and taking into account nitrogen, phosphate, and potash fertilizers. Also worldwide, when looking at different types of arable and permanent crops as a percentage of total fertilizer use, cereals are responsible for 64% of total use. You hear that, ladies and gentlemen? Cereals are responsible for 64% of the crops that used fertilizer, or of the total use of fertilizer. However, vegetables have some of the highest application rates in kilograms per hectare. Here's your leading indicator. All right, I hope that you take heed to this warning. Stock up on everything you need. It doesn't just have to be wheat-based or corn-based. I know corn uses a lot of fertilizer too, but rice as well. Stock up on these things because they're not going to go down in price. Even if we did not have this fertilizer fire, they weren't going to go down in price anyways. But now it's for sure that they're going to continue to go up in price. And worst case scenario is that there will be scarcity because there's not enough fertilizer to go around. Something we maybe don't think about on an everyday basis and take for granted, just like we take for granted turning on that tap and getting water out of our sinks every day, and just like we take for granted turning on the light switch and expecting that light to turn on in our house. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a great day. I hope you got something out of this. I hope you're preparing. If you don't prepare, ladies and gentlemen, no one is going to prepare for you. Having said that, have a great day. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.